Welcome to our biggest info dump yet.
Are you ready to hear us talk forever and ever and ever?
Hello, welcome to Monster Masquerade. I am Faye.
And I'm Mint.
And we're going to talk about, is this the first time that we have talked about something that is still in theaters?
No, we had another one.
We did Scream.
Scream, yeah.
Because they thanked us for coughing on each other.
Yeah. Resident Evil?
That was on DVD by the time.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like we've got some leeway.
Okay, I guess just Scream.
Yeah.
I feel like we've spoiler warning one for being recent, but it might have just been Spring? It might have just been Spring. That's a very different movie than Scream. Ghostface has a flower crown.
It's the Easter
Ghostface
Bunny.
in Midsummer now.
It's Zipper from Animal Crossing.
No! Ew. That's real horror.
Today we're going to talk about Nope, which came out not too long ago. It's by Jordan Peele. It's his third movie. And I think maybe, I don't know if it's recency bias. I think it might be the best.
Oh, it's the best. It's my favorite horror movie now. I'm sorry, Crimson Peak. It's knocked it out.
Or the one that I have enjoyed the most recently.
Yeah. What's interesting is, before we start talking about this, I have watched this movie 3 times, and I am about to watch it a 4th time at some point this week because I'm forcing everyone to watch it. And the first watch, I was like, okay, I think it's my second favorite Jordan Peele film. I was like, I still really like Get Out a lot. But on the second watch through, I was like, no, this is my favorite horror movie, just period.
I think I might have to rewatch Get Out and then make a call. They might be tied.
Yeah, they're both good in very different ways.
Yes. They were both. Get Out was the first. I think we talked about it in our first episode. That was the movie that got me back into horror, especially that movie going experience, because I saw it in a theater by myself while I was still in film school, and that was really nice.
That is nice.
And then we saw this one in the drive-in, and it was also very good. I feel like that was the perfect viewing spot for that.
It really was. My only complaint about the drive-in are you miss a bit of how cool the nighttime scenes can be. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit, just like the first one. But that could also be that I'm blind. That could be a contributing factor. But for me, that was the only complaint I had about the drive-in for it.
I was just so excited.
Ah!
So like we said, Nope is Jordan Peele's third directorial movie. Nope, the title itself, is an acronym for Not of Planet Earth. It's a little unclear if that acronym was intentional or not.
Yeah, I have a story about that. I guess I could tell it now. I watched a ton of interviews, and I watched the interview where he said that, and it was Keke Palmer was with Jordan Peele, and they were doing an interview, and she was somebody asked had the fans gotten anything right? It was before the movie came out. And Keke was like, yeah, some of the fans are saying it means not of planet Earth. That's obviously not true. And then Jordan sat there for a second and he's like, no, it's true. And she's like, wait, really? And he's like, yeah, they got one thing right. And I can't tell if he's joking or not.
That's
so
funny.
I have no idea.
Yeah, the only thing I could find in writing was that Nope, just the idea of Nope, was the reaction that he wanted his audience to have while watching it.
Yeah.
And it definitely happens a couple times throughout.
It does. It's so funny. One of our mutual friends just showed it to her parents, and she sent me a video of them. And there's a scene right before things really kick off in the movie where it's kind of jump scary, and there's this little alien guys coming out. And it's dark and it's creepy, and she recorded them, and they were literally on the edge of their seat going, oh fuck. they're like, oh no. It was just so funny.
That's so funny.
It was just so good to watch.
So yeah, people started attributing that acronym like as soon as they realized it was for UFOs, and I feel like he maybe adopted it afterwards. It's unclear.
Yeah, either way.
I do love the ambiguity of it.
Me too.
The simplest way to describe this movie is that we have a pair of siblings who are investigating a potential UFO only to discover that it was an ancient creature that killed their dad.
Yep.
So you think it starts off as a UFO and then big plot, the UFO is actually a big old monster that eats people.
I love it. I love Jean Jacket. That's the name of the monster, which we'll get into later. But I love Jean Jacket.
Yes. It's so good. It poops out metal and anything that is not fleshy.
And if it's sick to its tummy, it will throw out blood all over everything.
Yeah, it's real gross.
Sensitive, baby.
Jean Jacket has IBS.
Oh no.
So Jean Jacket, the creature itself, represents the spectacle of tragedy and our inability to look away. So I have some background into how that as a concept came to be.
Ooh.
Just from some of the pre-production notes.
I heard Jordan Peele talk about the looking at a car crash as you go by it.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. So essentially, Monkey Paw Studios, which is his production company, right, got signed to a 3-film deal. And when he started writing this was at the beginning of COVID. And so there was a lot of concern about whether or not the theater, as an industry, would die, because obviously people aren't able to go to theaters to watch movies and stuff. And we were seeing a lot more being released straight to streaming or, direct video, that type of thing. And so in combination with the isolation and that threat looming, he said that he needed to put together a spectacle. So something that would draw people back to movie theaters and also just be incredible to look at and awful at the same time.
He nailed it.
Yeah. And so I've read a couple of interviews where he's in hindsight, that fear of theaters dying might not be as present, because we've seen that
people don't actually care.
Right. Attendance will go up for movies that people really want to see. He wrote it during COVID. And do you want to know an especially wild fact?
Yes, of course I do.
So the movie opens up with a flashback where a chimpanzee gets a little aggravated and kills a whole bunch of people on a TV set.
You could say he goes apeshit.
He does.
I'm so sorry. I'll see myself out. Goodbye.
That whole scene was based on a nightmare that Jordan Peele had and tweeted about in 2014.
Oh my gosh.
So he had a dream that a chimp killed a bunch of people, and then it hugged him and was crying, and he woke up and he was like, oh my god. And I guess it stuck with him because it is a very integral part of the movie.
It is. I think it's the part that confuses people the most too.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything with the Gordy, that's the chimp, and Jupe confuses people a lot. I have found it didn't confuse me. So whenever I went to read other people's reviews, I was like, wait, people were very confused. I didn't realize.
Yeah. This movie is also the first horror movie to be shot in 65mm film.
Oh.
It was shot on IMAX cameras. We'll get into some of the creative solutions they had to come up with because of those cameras.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, because it gets real technical. Yeah, it's very neat. His cinematographer actually has done a number of movies with Christopher Nolan. That's his go-to guy.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
The 65mm and IMAX in general is kind of a pain to work with because like you see in the movie when you're working with film, it gets used up pretty quickly, and so you have to change it out during production and be mindful of how much is on each reel. And with IMAX, the picture is super clear, right? But when you start shooting stuff that is very dark, You get a lot of grain and like noise on the screen, like the fuzzies that you see in like the blackest parts of screens sometimes.
But they didn't get that.
Well, there's a reason for that, and it's very cool. I have 2 like things that will absolutely blow your mind.
I'm ready.
That you may have seen. So because this movie deals with a creature that we think is a UFO, right? We look at the sky a lot. All of the skies in this movie are CGI.
Oh yeah, you were telling me that. That's wild.
Yeah.
It's like they look at the sky a lot, so
yeah.
You can't tell. You can't tell at all.
Oh, there was a lot of like research and work that had to be done by the special effects crew, because the other thing with IMAX, because everything is so high detailed, right? Even if you're running a simulation, like if it looks off even a little bit, people are going to pick it up.
Yeah.
So they did a ton of work to make sure that like all of the clouds looked good, especially when Jean Jacket is hiding in the sky. And then the other cool thing that they did is that, I don't know if it was all of them, but a good number of the scenes that were like at night were filmed actually during the day.
Oh, that's, How did they do that?
I will tell you this.
I don't know anything about making films. I just watch them.
Yeah. Do you know what day to night is?
No.
So it's essentially when you have a scene that is at night, but you don't want to like either film that late or you can't because of like technical limitations. You will essentially film things and then color it in post to make it look like it is night.
Oh.
And so like I have had to do that for like a couple of things when I was in film school. And so like traditionally what you could do is like, if you're shooting indoors, you could use like a film that was colored for daylight. That'll make things a little bit more blue. And then you can also use like gels and like to color the windows and all that stuff, and use as many like blackout curtains and things you want to like give the appearance that it is nighttime.
Huh. So they were just like straight up genius in this film.
Yeah, day for night usually looks pretty off, like you can kind of tell. But to get the most out of their visual quality, what they did is they invented a new way of shooting day for night scenes. So they invented it. So Whoa. They used a 2-camera rig. One of them was an infrared camera, which created these very high contrast black and white images. And then they used that with lasers and a second camera, which like captured the color of like what was being recorded. And then they would use that high contrast film and overlay it and color it so that it looked more like what the human eye sees. So there was still like a bit of like fine tuning that they had to do with focus and color and post, but like the results are incredible. Like you just straight up cannot tell that most of this was shot during the day.
I don't think anybody that could tell.
Mm-hmm. Huge shout out to the special effects supervisor, Guillaume Rocheron. He has worked on like the new Godzilla movies. He worked on Life of Pi. He worked on Fast 5. His credits are wild, but he worked very closely with the cinematographer to like make sure that stuff looked good. And it also, since they were like filming with actual lights, it gave them like more room to play with lighting. They were able to do things like, shine a light in an actor's face to get their pupils dilating and stuff like that.
Ooh.
So it's very, very
That's so
neat.
Much work that went into it. I
So
knew
cool.
that there was, but like I didn't know at that scale, like they invented something, which is really cool. I mean, this movie has to win awards. I know it's not about the awards, blah, 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 blah. But like, come on.
No, it is the visual effects and the sound design that like really make like contribute to what makes this movie scary.
Yeah, the sounds that Jean Jacket makes they're so cool and so scary. I heard like a sound kind of similar. I was in the car and I heard a sound like that and I instantly was like looking around. I was like, just like that popping sound.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so good.
It's real intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
This was filmed from June to November of 2021 in Agua Dulce, which is in California.
Oh yeah, I knew it was a real place. You can actually go to the amusement park.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they have it there. I don't know if it was just a pop up, but I know like the cast was there for a little bit. Like, yeah,
that's really cool. I would go.
Me too.
They've got a huge Nope section for Universal Horror Nights or whatever that like yearly thing they do.
Yeah. Oh my god, I want to go so bad.
It looks very cool. Hoyt van Hoytsema is the cinematographer for this movie. Like I mentioned, he did all those Christopher Nolan things. He was also the cinematographer for Call of Duty Vanguard, which seems wild to me.
What? Okay.
I don't know how that works. I don't play Call of Duty, but...
I don't either, but I mean, I know it's like a lot of work. And I guess it kind of makes sense if he did like a bunch of cool CG stuff for this, so...
Yeah. So that's all the camera work that went into this movie and some of the special effects. The design of Jean Jacket itself, it essentially has like two forms. So the first form is like, oh my gosh, I see the little part. That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's actually, I would go to that.
I would go to that too.
So yeah, Jean Jacket has two forms. The first one is very simple. It just kind of looks like an off-white traditional UFO shape. It's got like I think in lore it's like 250-foot hole in the middle of it.
Oh.
And then on the inside is its like big green eye.
I love it, and it all is based off Evangelion.
Yeah, especially its second form.
Yeah, well, there's an angel in Eva. Apparently, I don't remember it, but it's just like a disc, like it looks like a flying saucer. So I was like, oh,
yeah. In the lore itself, the Jean Jacket is supposed to be like very light, and it uses like charged ions to keep it afloat. Like within the lore that they developed for this creature, they said it essentially like emits an electronic field around it like an eel would.
Yeah, it seemed like it had an eel field.
Yeah, and then like that ripply effect, kind of like a sail, so it's just like floating along air currents and electricity. Like you mentioned, Evangelion was a huge inspiration, especially for what they called its biblical angel form.
I love biblical angels. They're so scary, and I love them.
And they also used jellyfish as like for that form, I think specifically for how it traveled.
You can very much see that. Fun fact about the Evangelion reference: they also are drinking Kirin beer, which is the beer that they drink in Evangelion.
Oh,
it's in
funny.
several scenes of Evangelion. So they like you can see it only sometimes, but like whenever they're drinking beer, it's the same brand of beer as it. Evangelion.
That's so funny.
Great.
He also put an Akira slide in it.
Yes.
A motorcycle slide, and it's so good.
It's so good. We cheered. We cheered.
He wants to add it to the montage.
That's so good.
I'm
really I'm always here for an Akira bike slide.
Yeah. I love it. Backtracking a little bit to the very beginning of the movie, which I think I talked about maybe 10 minutes ago. That whole scene, you're straight up not allowed to use chimpanzees like in film or TV anymore, and they even reference that like in the movie because it can go very badly very quickly.
Has.
A huge part of this movie is that like even if animals are trained, like some of them, like they're still animals, and some of them cannot be tamed. There's a difference.
Just like Britney Spears said. I think she said it.
There's a difference between being trained and being tamed, and OJ says that like some animals just like can't be tamed.
Oh, it's Miley Cyrus. I don't know why I said Britney Spears. I'm sorry. I'm so sidetracked. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So Gordy is a chimpanzee that shows up like throughout the movie. It's very clearly like you can tell it is CG, but the person who played Gordy is named Terry Notary, and he did Planet of the Apes, and he was also in Kong Skull Island. So he has some experience playing monkeys.
He's got experience playing
he has experience playing chimps and apes and all that good stuff to get like the scaling right for him, because they didn't put him in like a traditional like mocap suit, you know, with like all the ball and stuff. They had him essentially like in a giant thing, and then they had a bunch of I think like 6 cameras set up so they could get him like from a ton of angles wandering around the set, kind of like you would for, I feel like a lot of video games do this now, just like a multicam setup so that you can like see stuff and like really get the expressions, because that was another thing that they wanted to highlight. It's just like the humanity in Gordy's eyes and stuff.
Yeah, Gordy makes me sad. Gordy and Jupe make me so sad.
Yeah. And so like they actually had this guy like in a similar like sweater to what Gordy is wearing in the movie, and the set itself was like built to scale, so it was like, you know, a third larger, I think is what I read, so that it looked like, you know, he was just a little monkey in a big like set.
Dang, that's cool.
Yeah,
that scene is, whenever you actually see that scene like way later in the movie, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lot to discuss about that scene when we get to that. I've got so many thoughts in my head. I think I've like come to a conclusion about what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we can continue on.
Yeah. I think that is it for my pre-production notes. So after we get past the monkey flashback scene, I know monkeys and chimps are...
Yeah, it's a great ape. And I'm not correcting you because I'm good at not correcting people.
It's like a Frankenstein's monster thing. Like
have
we just
to hold my tongue. I was talking about this at work the other day. So like I have autism and I always want to correct people. And that is like the one fact I always want to correct people on. Like a gorilla will show up and people go monkey and they're joking. But I'm just sitting there like seething. Like I'm like, don't do it. Don't be that person. Don't be it. And it's gotten to where people in a voice chat, they can't see my face. They can tell that I'm thinking like it's not a monkey. Like they can tell because I just stopped talking.
I might inadvertently like use it like interchangeably, but it is a chimpanzee.
It's an ape. It's an ape.
So yeah, once we get past that, we are put in another flashback that is in more modern times. So OJ and his dad are trying to tame a horse named Ghost, and then they hear some weird noises. They maybe hear some people scream. Mm-hmm. OJ is played by David Kaluuya, who is in Get Out, and he's so good.
I realized I was looking at he's in a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah. It's like is it the social media one?
No, it's the American Idol one. Like they're all in these pods. Yeah. That one is really good.
I do remember that.
He like likes that girl, and then she ends up getting like recruited to do porn or whatever, and then he just like gives up. But then he ends up getting recorded. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I remember that now. Yes, yes. That one is a good one. He's just a fantastic actor.
He's such a good actor. Everyone in this was amazing.
Yeah, I did read that he is like potentially, because you know he's not going to be in the next Black Panther movie. He's done a ton like within the past even like 5 years, let alone like the decade. So he's like taking a step back from acting to like look at other things that he can potentially do. That's
fair. I mean, he's been going like nuts.
Yeah. OJ's dad is played by Keith David. He's not in this movie long enough.
We were both like, Keith David, and then he dies. Like we were like, goodbye,
okay.
Keith David.
He gets impaled by a quarter that goes through his eye in a very traumatic and sad scene.
Yeah. I did see an interview with Jordan Peele where he was talking about how he specifically wanted Keith David. He was like, no one else can like play the gravity of this character because of even though he dies, like has to be that character. Like for anything to make sense for their characters, their sibling like bond, for any of it to make sense, he has to be like Keith David.
He does. He has a vibe.
He does.
He has a vibe for sure. He's Anderson in Mass Effect. He's the voice of Goliath in Gargoyles. He's done so many. He's Dr.
He's
the cat. He's the cat in Coraline. This is not the first time that we have talked about Keith David and just how much we both love him. So yeah, he dies very quickly and shows up in like one scene later. After that, they have a ranch where they raise horses and train them for Hollywood productions. And so like in order to maintain his family's legacy, and, you know, it is like a self-imposed isolation that OJ puts himself in, kind of. I feel like the vibe that Keith David maybe brings into this is like a respectable masculinity.
Yeah.
And so OJ takes that to like an extreme and is like, no, I have to do this thing alone, even if I'm not happy.
Exactly. He's like, I gotta do this for my dad. Like, this is the family business. It's important.
Yeah. After his dad's death, like a couple months later, he goes to a film set and to shoot a commercial, I think, and it goes very badly because he's not great with the people skills.
Not great. And then his sister shows up, and she is great with the people skills, but she's not great with the business skills. They complete each other in that way.
Yeah. I love Emerald. She's so good.
I do too. She's amazing. She's a lot.
Palmer's just good.
She really is. Apparently he like knew that he was gonna Jordan Peele said he knew everyone he was gonna cast except for Angel. He was a walk-in audition. And we'll get to him more later, but fun fact, that actor, he read the script and read the lines and like did his audition. And he did it in a like that character Angel was supposed to be like kind of a nerdy like gamer guy, like a well actually kind of person.
So I saw like I saw Happy Go Lucky out there a couple times.
Yeah, he read it as like a Chad and like a like just like a more like a gamer bro, like more less League of Legends, more Call of Duty type guy.
In one interview that I saw, he said that he saw Angel as like a quote Hispanic emo, and that's great.
I mean, that's what he played. It's true, and it's just like he did so good. And Jordan Peele in the interview was saying like that's what they needed. Like he was like, yeah, like this is actually who the character needs to be, and how they got Angel to be Angel. And Angel is great the whole time.
Yeah, he definitely brings like some of the comedic relief. To
him and Keke Palmer, him and Emerald.
She also does like a very good job of like just like terrified though.
Oh yeah, yeah.
like honestly, that scene where she is introduced and she is talking about their family history, that was improv. So they shot that scene like 14 times.
Oh,
and he said that like each time was so different that it was like almost impossible to cut together in editing because he just like turned on the camera and was like, go for it.
Say things.
Within the fiction, they are related to the man who was like in the first
motion picture, basically.
Yeah. The first like progression of film was like 24 frames per second. A very famous horse thing.
Yes.
So in real life, we do not know that man's name. We know the man who like took those pictures and put together the actual like moving horse that everybody has seen. But the jockey who is riding the horse has been like forgotten to time, probably intentionally.
Sad. It's really sad.
And so in the context of the story, they are like his great, however many great grandchildren.
It makes me happy that like they brought that into this movie to like kind of bring him back to life in a way.
And so their family has been like in film since film began, and they've been raising horses and other animals since then. During that introduction scene, we're also introduced to Antlers, who's like this very gravelly cinematographer who is like a play on Werner Herzog a little bit. Just this like very pretentious and very dry guy who's like focused on the visuals more than anything else.
So dry. Oh, also fun fact for this scene, if you look, the cameras look like the little aliens that you see later. That's intentional.
I did not know that.
Yep.
But yeah, the horse freaks out because they stick a reflective thing in its eye and they lose the job, and they're going to use a CG horse instead. Like very quickly after that, we realize that in order to keep the family business running, OJ has been selling his father's horses to Jupiter, to Jupe. The child star who was in the sitcom where a bunch of people got killed by a chimpanzee.
Yeah, Jupe is like so complex. I think it's interesting. I think a lot of people don't like Jupe at first, but I instantly felt bad for him. Like that guy has so much trauma. That guy has
really
so
does.
much trauma. Like, oh man, he needed therapy. Get this man some therapy, please.
He's played by Stephen Ewan, who most people know from The Walking Dead. I need to watch, what is it, Minori? Is that the movie he did that was supposed to be super good?
I don't know. I need to watch that too.
He was also Keith in Voltron. He's had a couple of voice acting roles. He did Mayhem with what's her name? Oh, I love her so much. What is her name?
Samara Weaving?
Yes, Samara Weaving. I love her. She's so good.
Who is she? Oh, she's in Ready or Not. Okay.
Yeah. So they did that one. They did that one together.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Jupe is the owner of Jupiter's Claim, which is the amusement park in the area. It's literally like right next door to their family ranch. Like they share a fence. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to like. He's good. I love Stephen Ewan so much.
He's so good at playing the compost character, because when you meet Jupe is like very confident, and he's like, Emerald is asking him about all the memorabilia on the wall, and she's like, you're in this, and she's like, what's this? And it's the poster for Gordy's home. And he's like, oh, let me show you. And like the whole time, OJ's just trying to do like a deal. And it's important to note that in that deal, he's like, hey, I want to buy my horses back. And Jupe is like, yeah, for sure you can buy those horses. And like on a first watch through, you're like, huh? but
like you think he maybe just like feels bad for him because he probably knows his dad and stuff.
No,
like no,
that's not the case. But anyway, he like he takes them to the secret room he has where he's got all this Gordy's home memorabilia, which like red flag, man. And
he was the only surviving cast member from that incident.
Yeah, he had one surviving cast member.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. The girl that he says he had a crush on.
Yes.
And she gets disfigured because she
Gordy
gets attacked by Gordy.
Rips her face off. It's very brutal.
Very.
But he's talking about it in this scene in such a weird way. Like he's describing like, oh yeah, people pay to like come stay in here. I made this much money off of that. And he's like, this is his actual shirt. And they did an SNL skit. And then he goes on to talk about the SNL skit, but like, you can just see what a good actor. You can tell the like pain behind his eyes. Like he's like, oh, it's hilarious. It's so funny. I make all this money off of this. But you can just like tell that he's got 80 million things going on in his head. And he does, because he's also trying to befriend an alien.
Yes, he is definitely covering up that trauma under a veil of like capitalism and humor.
Yeah.
And like maybe nobody else can tell, but like the audience sure can.
Yeah, it's really sad. And Stephen Ewan even said that he got really depressed from playing this role. Like it actually made him sad. Like he had to like pull himself out of it at times because it was very similar to growing up in Hollywood.
I could see that for sure.
Like he was like, it was just a really heavy role to play. If you grew up in Hollywood, grew up as a child actor, you're like,
I mean, we're seeing like all of these horror stories from like Nickelodeon specifically recently. Like I'm sure it was awful.
Yeah, exactly.
He literally watches Gordy get shot like right in front of him.
We find that out later.
For the fist bump that they were like famous for. And that would be very, very traumatizing.
Yeah, I the stuff he saw. We get to see the whole scene later, but basically like a balloon pops and Gordy just goes crazy. He's like ripping people apart. He like I think it's the girl who's disfigured. She's like crying. And he hears her crying and turns back around and just like beats her until she stops moving. And it's like, ooh, like very brutal. That scene is a lot.
Yes.
But before we get into that, they are like figuring out the stuff's going on. Because Ghost runs away. Ghost is just like, nope. And then that scene is so freaking cool. OJ like chased after Ghost, and it's nighttime, which we now know was actually daytime, thanks to knowledge. But it's nighttime, and you can hear in the distance and you can see like what looks like a tornado. You can hear in the distance Jupe being like, what if I told you in an hour you'll leave here different? Like he's like doing a speech.
Yeah, he's practicing for his new show.
Yeah, and it's just like, that's weird. And then you hear like a really weird scream sound, and like the power gets all buggy. And they're like, what is that? So they go out to buy new cameras. That's where you meet Angel.
Yes.
He works at Fry's Electronics.
They're pretty suspicious, like, immediately that there is a UFO that is, like, creeping around and doing some weird stuff. Like you said, causing their power to go out. And then we later find out that Jupe and his family have also seen this alien for at least
6
couple of months.
Yeah.
It's like once a week or something.
They've been feeding it horses.
Yes. Terrible.
Don't do that. I don't care about your trauma. I mean, I do care about his trauma, but also, oh my god, dude. Feeding it horses.
Yes. We can get into it in a bit.
Yeah.
In a little bit.
A little bit.
I'm just excited.
There's a lot to get into, but we have to get there first. It's the journey.
Yes.
It's the journey. Yeah, because we have to meet Angel first and go to Fry's Electronics, which I still think is hilarious every time.
That scene was filmed after every single Fry's shut down. So they had to reconstruct their own store. And they even had, who was it? I think it was like the CEO of Fry's and his wife, something or something like that, be customers in the store.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
that's cute.
So they had to build their own Fry's because there were no more by the time production started rolling around.
Oh no! Rest in peace, Fry's. I never went there, but
I went there once and did not buy anything because it was all very expensive.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, we meet Angel, who just seems like a very
retail.
Yeah, like a very douchey IT guy. And so they're buying cameras because they want to get a picture of the UFO. But like, how can they do that if all of their stuff dies, like their cameras and phones, like they die while the UFO is over them? So they go looking for equipment. These have a backup generator, and Angel is like, all right, so do you need help installing this? And they're like, nope, I don't think so. And he's like, takes a look at their list. He's like, you guys are never going to be able to do this. And they're like, could you? And he's like, oh yeah, easy. And so they bring him in to build or to set up this new security system under the guise that they have been robbed. But it very quickly, because he's like a conspiracy theorist, he's like, you guys looking for aliens?
Yeah. Well, after he goes on a rant about his ex, that is the funniest thing in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny. He just gets out of the truck and just screams. And they're like, whoa, don't do that, man. Like, they're like, what are you doing here? It's so funny. Yeah, he's like, UFOs?
He's like, sorry, I was in a bad mood earlier. My girlfriend just left me for a show on the CW.
Yeah, and he's like, the fucking CW. He's like, so mad. He's like, she was a model. And he's like showing them pictures, and they're just like, okay.
So he sets it up and then asks them if like they would like for him to keep an eye on things as well, because it streams to the cloud, I guess, and he can watch it. And they say no, but he does it anyways from the Fry's with his coworker.
Yep. Their interactions are really funny. She just walks up and scares. It's the most retail, legit, like it looks like retail. Like it just feels like an actual retail experience that I've ever seen in a movie. And they're just like, she just like walks up eating hot Cheetos, and he's like, huh! And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I don't know, stalking, the usual. It's like, okay. And she's like listens into him freaking out over watching the cameras.
They don't get anything that first night because there is a praying mantis on one of the cameras, and then they still die anyways, even with the backup generator.
Yeah.
Still very scary though. And then Emerald leaves in the morning to go get more equipment, she says, and she comes back with a big metal horse that she stole from the amusement park.
She does that before the nighttime thing because Angel's still there because it's very funny.
Is he?
Yeah, because he's there. So in an interview, I watched so many interviews. Jordan Peele said that this scene is actually very important because it's the only time that the main cast is all together. And it really sets the tone for all of their characters. So she's stolen the horse, the like bait horse, and she has it out in front. They're setting it up as like actual bait for the alien spaceship. They think it's a UFO at this point. And they're standing out there looking at it with Angel, and Jupe drives up, and they're like, "Oh no!" And then Jupe's like
standing at the edge of the fence.
Jupe's like, "Hey, where'd you get that?" And he says at the same time that Emerald's like, "Where'd you get yours?" Because he's like, "We have some like that." And then at some point, Angel says something. He's like, "You can go now" or something. And they're like, "You don't live here." Like they're just like, "You don't live here." And then Jupe's like inviting them to their thing, and then he's like, thumbs up," and they're like, thumbs up, and it's like so uncomfortable. And in the interview, Jordan said that it's an important scene because they all are so lonely in their own ways, and they desperately want a connection there, but they're all just too far apart, like even physically as well as emotionally, because Jupe's like all the way at the fence, and like he said it's important to show like they're all in their own little worlds at that point and like lonely and like dealing with their own stuff, and they want that connection with each other, but they just can't. I think that's very cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's really, they all have like very interesting dynamics between them all, and even when the cinematographer joins them later, he's still like, he doesn't feel like a piece that fits into that puzzle. Like he's just doing his own thing, and that's probably why he dies.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't get anything that first night, and then like very soon after, Jupe decides to do his show because he has Lucky the horse, and he's gonna. Oh, there's a scene where where his kids, after after they steal the metal horse, Jupe's kids sneak onto the property and scare OJ.
It's so funny.
It's very good because they're dressed like stereotypical like little gray men from like Roswell. It's funny.
It's very funny. It's so cute. They're like, "Don't mess with Jupiter's claim." And then Emerald's like, "You want to prank us? We'll prank you back." And OJ's like, "You stole their things." And she's like, "Aw, yeah, I forgot about that." It's so funny. And that night also, the alien eats the metal horse. It sucks it up, which is important because, again, it has IBS.
Yes. So we get to like the next day, and Jupe is ready to put on his show. He's got an audience. He has invited the girl who was mauled by Gordy, and before the show like actually starts, he is like hyping himself up a little bit. One of the interesting things that this movie talks about is the idea of miracles and what OJ calls bad miracles, right?
Yep.
And so when you take these two characters and you have Jupe, who like, despite this horrible scene, was left alive and relatively like unharmed from his childhood, and even in those last moments like is able to maintain his relationship with Gordy, he gets kind of a savior complex a little bit. Like it's a weird mix of like he wants to take the miracle that was given to him and like give it to other people, but like very much for his own personal gain.
Think it's like, so I don't think, for me, I don't think it's as much of a savior complex as it is like he genuinely thinks he's doing good. And like he's also trying to heal himself and he doesn't know how to.
There was a line that I meant to write down during our second viewing that like kind of affirmed that to me, that he kind of thought he was untouchable because he survived that incident. And like part of him might have thought he could have been friends with Jean Jacket too.
Yeah. I definitely think he thought that for sure.
Yes.
I don't think there's any malicious intent behind Jupe though, like at all.
No. I think you can want to like uplift yourself in a non-malicious way.
Yeah. I guess I just always think of savior complex as like really bad, like just a bad thing to have.
Yes, for sure. So he starts to put together the show. he says, in an hour, your lives are going to be changed. This UFO is going to come down, and my boys are going to sing a song.
It's so cool because it's the last hour of the movie after he says that. It's so cool.
But the alien starts to come much sooner than that, because this thing does not like being looked at.
Yep.
And so with all these people staring at it in the clouds, it decides to come out early and scoops them all up, much like a tornado would do.
A little vacuum cleaner. Mm-hmm. It's horrifying.
OJ comes by, like, very close to that, like, the aftermath of that, and realizes that, like, oh, hey, that's not a UFO. That's a monster.
Yeah, it, like, swoops down over him. He's like, oh no, that's a living thing.
Would you like to know some behind the scenes for the guts of this jean jacket?
Oh, would I?
Okay. So one, it shows a couple times these people being consumed, digested almost. It's real gross.
It's gross.
It's real fleshy, and the sound effects are very bad.
In a good way.
Yes. It's terrible because, like, these people can tell that they are going to die. Like, they have enough time to recognize that, and they're just, like, powerless to stop it. And so, like, you can hear them screaming as Jean Jacket is flying around.
It's so scary. It's so scary. Ugh.
In order to film that, they took a horizontal, semi-transparent set that they built out of, like, paneling, and they stuck LEDs behind it that made it look like peristalsis. So, like, that's the, like, automatic, like, contracting that your intestines do to, like, push food. And then they added the bodies in post, so they're digital body doubles.
What? That's
so yeah, it's mostly practical, except for, like, the people themselves.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah. We get, like, probably the most visually upsetting moment very soon after this.
It's so good, though. It's so good, though.
Because the creature flies back over the house where Angel and Emerald are, like, trying to keep an eye on it. And it starts to rain. It starts to pour. There's a noise.
Horrific noise.
Yes. You hear, like, a squelch. And then it, like, roars and then just drops a whole bunch of fluid and metal and all the stuff that it can't digest at once.
Yeah.
And so you get this, like, bloody thunderstorm because it's also electrical.
It's so cool.
And so it, like, stains the house and the windows red, and, like, bits of metal keep shooting down at high speeds. And that's how Otis Sr. died. Because it ate a bunch of hikers and then spit out their coins.
Yep.
So that was the bad miracle. It was just like a freak accident, apparently. But it was this creature.
Yeah.
Who OJ says that, like, thinks that this plot of land is its.
It's home. It thinks that's where it lives. But only because Troop kept freaking feeding it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it probably would have left.
Yes.
But Troop kept feeding it.
So after it does the bloody poop rain... after it has its IBS episode, it starts to head back towards OJ, who is traveling in a van. The van dies. It does the really... Because, like, when it gets closer, it's playing music over the radio, and it starts to, like, slow down before everything dies. I think this is another scene that they shot day to night, because, like, it just looks very good while he's sitting in the car, like, trying to watch stuff.
Yeah, and Angel's music is still, like, slowly playing in the distance too.
Mm-hmm. Right before this, he, like, makes the realization that, like, oh, if I don't want to get eaten, I should not look at this thing. Because he does that, like, outside the car, and then he gets inside and starts driving towards the house, and then it drops the metal horse, like, into his front windshield. I think that's the only, like, jump scare in this movie.
That's the only big jump scare. It's a valid jump scare.
That happens. Our cast is understandably very scared, and they decide to regroup. Angel assumes that they're just going to kind of give up and let this thing, like, have the land. They take him back. He takes him back to his apartment, and he's got of course, he has like a Bitcoin like mining system.
Oh my god! Yeah, he's playing VR while smoking a joint.
Yes.
I do think I do want to say about the scenes that we just talked about before. That segment of scenes is probably like one of my favorite in horror because they like pan out. You see the house dripping in blood, and just like people's reactions when they're watching that are my favorite. They're so good, and like I wear my sunglasses at night. It's playing like slowly and distorted in the background. It's just so good. Definitely watch this movie. It's so good. Well, you should have watched it if you're listening to this.
The only problem with like doing an episode this soon is that I cannot put clips into it.
Oh yeah,
because there are a bunch of like really cool ones that would be rad to show off.
So cool.
They decide that they are not going to give up on this creature because OJ doesn't want to lose his family's land, and Emerald still wants to like find success for herself, and OJ like outside of that. I like her motivation because like she wants to step outside the shadow that her dad and family members have created, but like also be like, hey, I was part of this and it was really cool.
Yeah,
that's why Jean Jacket is called that, because she had a horse that she was supposed to train named Jean Jacket, and then Otis Sr. took over training and like never let her do it, and so she felt like very left out and not a part of the family legacy. But OJ was like the only one to acknowledge her. Yeah, so
they got a cool sibling dynamic going on.
Yeah, they do a cool eye pointy thing at each other.
It's cute, really cute.
They're very good. She is like primarily wearing his clothes throughout the movie.
Yeah,
I think she lives in like a trailer or something as part of the grind.
Part of the grind.
She's on that grind mentality. So after the people get eaten, there's like news coverage about this mysterious event where all these people vanished. They get a hold of the cinematographer who they had met during the commercial. She had tried to like get him on board to capture footage of the alien before, and he wasn't interested. But like after all these people go missing, he's like, oh yeah, like I'm down to
now I'm interested.
I don't know why this has come up so much for me recently, but with his character specifically, he kind of talks about the idea of like creative versus monetary endeavors, because the whole reason he was on that commercial was to like get money to fund his own passion projects, which is also something that like I heard a lot from all of my film professors, right? They were like, oh, you know, you're gonna have to do some like really shitty jobs in order to like have a little bit of time to put out the stuff that you really care about, which just seems kind of toxic to me.
That does seem bad.
Great. Very depressing, I would think.
Yeah.
And so that is like part of his endeavor. This is like the one thing that like nobody else can do, and so like he is down to it for the glory and to like cement his legacy. Legacy is a big thing in this one. And so he goes out to join them. He brings his own IMAX camera that is manual and relies on a crank to record stuff. They raid the amusement park and steal all the wacky inflatable tube men.
I love the wacky inflatable tube men.
It's so smart. They steal those and the car batteries from all the dead people's cars, and they hook up this like elaborate system so that they can tell where Jean Jacket is. Because like as it's flying over, the tube men will like deflate and sink to the ground.
Yeah.
Super smart. They are determined to like capture this thing. They've got on, that was another thing, right? Because that was in that same vein as the antlers guy.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about how if you are like on that grind in the film industry, right, it's not always glamorous. Like those horses that OJ and his dad were trading didn't end up getting used because they wanted to use camels for the Scorpion King.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
And so like, but they still have the like crew hoodies, this bright orange thing that he puts like fake eyes in the back of. Incredible. So good.
So good.
So yeah, they have it set up. They are they are going to like get this thing and get their Oprah shot and be set forever. And then like right as soon as they're about to do that, some guy in a motorcycle rolls up. He's got on a reflective helmet, and he starts asking Emerald a bunch of questions like, don't you want to be famous? Like, come on, talk to me. She gets on the radio and it's like, shit, it's TMZ.
Yeah, it's TMZ.
It's so good.
The TMZ guy is so funny.
It's his, in the credits, his name is Edward Muybridge, who is the guy who, like, that's the name of the guy who shot that horse footage at the very beginning of the movie.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, it's like a nice flip. Like, you only know his name in the credits, and then we don't get to see his face at all because he's just got that shiny.
That's a really nice flip. I like that. That's a cool detail. I did not know. I didn't read about that. That's very cool.
Yeah. So he is like, okay, well, screw y'all. I'm going to get the footage myself. Like, you missed your opportunity. Yeah. And so he starts riding along, and then Angel's on the radio, and he's like, what happens when a motorcycle going 60 miles an hour meets or suddenly loses power?
Yeah.
You watch from a distance as he just like flies over his handlebars when the motorcycle dies.
He goes, ah! It's so funny.
And they're like, oh, he's dead. And then he starts screaming because his arm is broken.
Yeah.
OJ doesn't want to let him die, so he starts like riding the horse out there, and he's like gonna save him. But this dude like won't stop looking at Jean Jacket because he's understandably like freaked out by this thing in the sky that's like coming closer. And even like until the moment of his death, he is like, take my camera, like get footage, like you got to get this thing. And then OJ's like, yeah, no, I can't stick around for this. And so he also gets picked up tornado style and gets eaten by Jean Jacket.
Yeah, they warn him.
Yeah, they did. They tried to get him to leave. She was like, oh, you're going to want to go around like this long way in order to get to the amusement park. So it is his own hubris that leads to his death. They almost get the shot of Jean Jacket as it like scoops him up to eat him, but they miss it because they had to swap the film canister, which to me was the most stressful part of the movie because swapping out film in the daylight is like awful. It's terrifying. And so like they're trying to get as much footage as possible with a little hand crank thing and just barely miss it.
Yeah.
And then Antlers is like, I'm going to get it myself.
I'm going to get the shot.
I'm going to get the shot. Which, he goes out and he starts filming and almost gets Angel killed because like it tears up the shack that they're hiding in or their little like setup. And he gets scooped up as he's filming. And so you get to see like from the camera's perspective of it looking up at Jean Jacket and then like the insides a little bit before the camera gets destroyed.
Yeah. Sad. I mean, wouldn't it poop out the camera? I guess it'd be messed up though.
Maybe. I mean, because like if the camera falls out, because it's not going to digest it, like even if it did like live after that, you know, if the film got exposed to sunlight, then there's no.
That's so sad.
Saving
Rest in peace, man.
Dingus.
That guy's a dingus. But then it's the coolest part. It's so freaky. Just this whole last bit is just I just want to watch it over and over again. It's so good.
Jean Jacket is fucking pissed.
Jean Jacket is done. Jean Jacket's like, I just want people to not like fucking look at me. Like just stop looking at me. And they're recording it now and they're like tricking it into coming out. They're making it eat like it ate some barbed wire. It's like it's eating like the wacky inflatable men, and it's like, okay.
So yeah, after it eats the cameraman, that's when they're like, okay, yeah, we just gotta leave. Like we can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
Angel gets wrapped up in a tarp and barbed wire and like gets flown out into the middle of the thing as it's like doing a sweep. He was originally supposed to die, but they rewrote it so that his character could live.
I'm so glad they did.
Yeah.
Because he's great.
It's so good. So yeah, then there's a moment between, because Emerald steals the TMZ man's motorcycle, because she mentioned that she is a trained motorcycle stunt person at the beginning of the movie when she's like hyping herself up.
Yeah, she does.
As a nice callback. Oh, we see Jean Jacket
in the background.
Yeah, and
It's
it turns into its biblical angel form.
The way it's shot, it's like OJ's standing there telling her, like, go get the bike, and he's like, I'm gonna get the horse. And it's like through a window or through the door in a barn. You can see it like growing and becoming kind of jellyfish-like, and I was just like, oh, what's happening?
It like turns inside out, like, you know, those little plushy jellyfish where like one side is happy and it's like that, except it gets much bigger.
It gets so big, and it's so pretty. It's so pretty. I love it so much. I love Jean Jacket.
Yes. So you get the impression that OJ is like prepared to sacrifice himself in order to like save his sister. They have a moment where, like, because obviously the motorcycle won't start with Jean Jacket like right over. They're avoiding eye contact. OJ like rides out to a distance and starts staring at it, and then we get the full square green eye.
And it's making these sounds. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. And like goes in and out to like look at both of them. So it's like a pulsing thing. OJ starts to ride away until the motorcycle can start. Emerald starts racing towards the amusement park. She has a plan. She takes the big inflatable jupe and lets it loose because it's got an eyeball and it's doing finger guns.
Like, oh, he'll think it's looking at him. Jean Jacket will definitely think this is looking at him.
OJ gets messed up a little bit. I think he like falls over or something. He gets injured at some point.
His leg is like hurt, yeah, and so he has to get on the horse and like lead it away a little bit. So he's like run off.
Yes. Jean Jacket takes the bait and goes after the giant balloon mascot.
It's so good.
And M is like using the manual crank well camera that we see at the beginning of the movie.
It's like a good callback.
Like a wishing well that you like look in and you can take the picture that way, and it's like a straight picture up. And so as Jean Jacket is like coming towards and like wrapping itself around the balloon, she is like just trying to take as many pictures as possible, and then it eats it and it blows up kind of.
She gets the Oprah shot.
Yes.
It's so good.
She gets a good shot of it like right overhead.
It's so good. It just blows up. It's so funny. It just eats it and then it just
and maybe dies?
I think
unclear.
I think it's dead. But Jordan Peele has said that he wants to do another movie in this universe with these aliens. So I don't know if its relatives are going to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And kind of like
well, because like that was another interview that I read was like, you know, they keep calling it the biblical angel. Jordan Peele said that the creature came from a different planet that was like similar to Earth, but like there's no exact timeline when. So the theory is that like people in the past could have seen Jean Jacket or something very similar saw it as like divine intervention. And so there's no telling how long Jean Jacket's been doing their thing.
That makes sense. It does start out with a Bible verse, too. The movie does.
Yeah. So, yeah, after they take the picture and Jean Jacket maybe dies, the media starts rolling up. And the last thing we see is OJ, like, in the entryway of Jupiter's Claim. And if you look at it, it kind of looks like a frame. Because it's like it's got the overhead and the two like bars of the gate, so it's like another callback to the like still frame.
Yeah.
Some people think that OJ is like dead, but I don't see.
No,
it doesn't make any sense.
He's not dead. He just rode back and was like, "Yeah, you did it." I don't think he's dead.
I saw one interview and they were like, "Some people think that OJ is dead," and he was like, I wrote a pretty clear like script and we filmed it. Like, I'm not going to provide an explanation for something that like is very apparent.
Like all of a sudden it's a ghost movie now, or like the ghost can insta show up and the horse is also dead and a ghost. Like what?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. Plus, like that still wouldn't make sense because Jean Jacket was chasing him the whole time.
Right.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, that's the end of the movie. There's if you go to IMDb, there is a credit for a character called Nobody, who was originally wrote into the script but like got taken out. So that character that got removed from the script still exists within the universe and could potentially be doing stuff either while the events of this movie are happening or afterwards.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
A lot of people are trying to find info about this Nobody character. But yeah, Jordan Peele is like, I've built too cool of a universe to not go back to it.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah.
And I would just love to see these characters again. And I think like if anyone could do a sequel, a horror sequel, it's Jordan Peele. Like for sure. And I love the like the alien is not even evil. It's just an animal. I love that. I love that it's not like, I'm here for world domination, blah, blah, blah. Right. It's just like, it showed up here and it's like, ooh, horsies. Ooh, a little hiking group. And it's like, oh, snackies. And then it just goes away, you know? And it's like, don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm just here to eat snacks, you know?
Like you, Pavlov, rang the bell and gave it a bunch of horse treats. Like you can't expect it to not eat you.
Yeah, you gave it a bunch of horse treats and then invited a bunch of people to stare at it.
So this movie has done pretty well, all things considered. Its ratings are like in the 80s, I think. I'm going to get on my soapbox just a little bit because I read a couple of reviews from mostly like older critics who were like, oh, the movie is fine, but I just don't think it's deep enough. Like it's not hitting enough of the issues. What? And I feel like that you're kind of missing the point if that's your argument to why you don't like this movie. Like Get Out and Us are definitely more blatant in their messages, but like still have enough ambiguity to dissect its themes and like its cultural topics, right? Especially in regards to racism and classism with the two respective movies. But like the intent between the production of these things was different. Yeah. Like Peele wanted to first and foremost like write a creature feature. And he did that. And also like still touched on Hollywood's erasure of Black history. Like the whole thing with their ancestors and, you know, historical erasure too. Because like not all cowboys were white and a vast majority of them were not. Because like they just were not. Yep. It also, like we mentioned, touches on the realism of the industrial Hollywood that they are a part of. Dealing with themes of creativity versus monetization and like the idea of making a profit off of tragedy and trauma, which is like all that 2020 was.
It really was.
And like I mentioned earlier, you know, we have a lot of stuff about legacy and themes of masculinity. There are a ton of Easter eggs and cool things about this movie soundtrack and visual design and like literally everything that are like shout outs to film history.
Yeah, I feel like if you watch this movie and because you can watch it, the general public can watch it and be like, this is an alien movie with some weird chimpanzee stuff that happened. That could be like your takeaway. But I feel like if you're listening to this or if you went to write a review and you'd be like, I don't like it, you should maybe give it another watch through because there's so much going on.
My biggest thing with like that takeaway is that like Jordan Peele doesn't have to be the one to like hold audiences' hands through cultural symbolism and significance in order to make a good movie. And it's really fucking weird to put that expectation onto one person. Yeah. And he's straight up said in interviews that like he doesn't want to do that all the time. Yeah. Because it's exhausting. Like no one person can be a source of education for the shitty stuff that's going on in the world, you know? Like exactly, yeah. He said, sometimes I want to put together movies like Get Out, and sometimes I just want to put together a movie. Like
like you said, it's not even like this movie doesn't have huge important themes in it. It's just that they're not as in your face. Right. And you can sit down and watch this movie and have a good time watching it. Because like Get Out, I have to mentally prepare myself to watch Get Out. Like I'm gonna feel sad, but watching Nope, I can watch it without feeling sad. Like the dupe stuff makes you a little sad, but
right.
I don't know.
Like that stuff they claim is missing is there. They just don't want to like put in the effort to
exactly.
find it.
I saw a lot of reviews. I was looking at reviews. Like, a lot of people have really strong opinions against this movie, and that's so strange. Like some people were like, "This was trash," and I'm like, "What? Did we watch the same movie? I feel like we did not watch the same movie."
The only thing, this might be my controversial take on the movie in regards to like literally everything that I have just said. There's been a lot of speculation over what the blue heel in the studio represents. I don't think it means anything. I think it's a red herring. I think it's just a memory from a kid who went through a fucked up experience and like has this one visual thing that he can cling on to that can like link back to it because everybody else is either like gone or, you know, like dead.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Not so much that it means nothing. I think that, I mean, basically what you said, like he has it on display like that. And I think it represents like him profiting off his trauma. So when he thinks of the memory, he can only think of the shoe standing up like it's in the case, like it's in that case. Like that, like his memory's been tainted because he is profiting off of his trauma. I think that's what it is for me. I don't think it's anything else. I think it's just trauma because sometimes you misremember trauma, especially if you're like fabricating it for profit, like for SNL skits. Like if you're doing that, like that seems very blatant, like about COVID or about like any trauma. Like, I mean, like the serial killer podcasts and stuff, you know? So I feel like it's just him implanting a memory in his head.
Right. Because like, who knows? Maybe the shoe like did not magically set up like that, but like that's how he remembers it. And so like that's how it's going to be. Exactly. But yeah, I love this movie. I think it's really good.
It's so good. I could talk forever about the Gordy's home scene, but I won't, so that you're not stuck here listening to this for 1,000 years. But I've got so much to say about it.
Please watch it. Please, like, if you've got a drive-in, get out there. It should also come to streaming, like probably right before Thanksgiving, I would guess, is when it'll hit like digital platforms. I think it's going to be on Paramount.
You can rent it for $20 right now.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, you can rent it for $20, but I want to own it, so.
Yes. This is one that I will, like, seek out and get. I'll get a Blu-ray of it, for sure.
Same, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't go 2 hours. I'm pleasantly surprised. We didn't even go an hour and a half. Look at us.
I felt myself rushing through.
You were worried. It was okay. It was okay.
Towards the end. It's okay, though. I'm just gonna, like... In editing, I'm gonna add like a breath, or I'll just like pitch it down. Like I'll do a reverse Alvin and the Chipmunks so that it's like 75 speed.
We're gonna sound like Jean Jacket.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to?
No, it's just good. It's got biblical angels. It's got a bunch of eyeball imagery. It's got creepy sound effects. It's got people being eaten alive. It's got it all.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's very good. And it's better every time you watch it.
Like, I know at the end of the last episode, we were like, oh, we're for sure going to talk about the house because we haven't done an animated thing in a while. But, like, neither of us have been able to stop thinking about this movie. Yeah, so.
I'm thinking about it constantly. I'm just literally, I don't know if my coworkers listen to my podcast, but if you do, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, you should watch Nope. Hey, you should watch Nope. One of my coworkers doesn't even like horror, and I'm still like, hey, have you watched Nope? And he's like, no. Like, oh, okay, well, you should.
That'll be the next one. I have notes on that one as well.
Yes, I love The House. I'm glad you watched it.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, go watch Nope.
Go watch it.
Bye.
Bye. You have been listening to Monster Masquerade. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to let us know somewhere on the internet and consider sharing the show with a friend. If you have a suggestion or topic you'd like to see us discuss, hop on over to our Patreon to unlock exclusive bonus content and do just that. And we'd super appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes. It's the fastest way to help the show grow. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you find podcasts.